Hello everyone. Today I want to share with you how to make profiles for editing in Lightroom. It's really easy to do. One of the things that you have to know though is you need to use Photoshop in order to do this. And so I'm going to take an image that's raw over to Photoshop. We're going to edit it, create a profile, and then bring it back into Lightroom and show you how to do it there. Now, the thing to remember with this is you find it under the Develop module, but it can be a little bit hidden. It is under Profile at the top, and Adobe Color is the standard that they have created. It used to be Adobe Standard, and now it is Adobe Color. But if you click on this and go down to Browse, there will be a lot of options here that you may be already familiar with. Adobe has quite a few. There are camera matching profiles here, artistic ones, black and white, vintage, and then there are user profiles where we can create our own profiles and add those. And I've got one here which is called Outdoor Bold Color. Well, I want one that's a little bit more punchy, so I've decided to make a new one and bring it into Lightroom. So these are different in the sense that you have an amount slider which relates to opacity, and it doesn't affect any of the other adjustments that you make. This is another layer, something else on top, and you have a lot of leeway there. You can lower the opacity on this. Let's open it back up here. You can lower the opacity or increase the opacity. This is my Caroline Jensen Clean and Bold that I did, and the way I made it was at 50, in the middle here for amount, but I can really punch it over, and I actually really like that. So we're going to kind of recreate that today, except maybe have it be more punchy to begin with. But this is pretty cool stuff. Alright, so the first thing I want to do is just zero this out back to its original image because I don't want to bring the edited image over to Photoshop. So we're going to go edit in and bring it over to Photoshop, and there is where the magic starts to happen. So we're going to let it do its thing. I might pause while it brings it over. Alright, so we're over in Photoshop. Now what we're going to do is go to Filter, and we want to go to Camera Raw Filter. I'm going to get rid of my NIX software here because it's kind of in the way. Oh, maybe it won't let me go. Anyway, so we want to go to the Adobe Camera Raw filter, and this is where we make our adjustments. So the thing I want to do first is work with some of the basic panel here, what we call the basic panel over in Lightroom. I'm going to increase vibrance quite a bit, contrast. I might open blacks just a little bit. The one thing I have learned is you want to avoid increasing exposure, especially with a mid-tone bump. I'm a big fan of a mid-tone bump like this, but when you bring it back and you use it as a profile, remember you have that 0 to 100 opacity or amount feature, and when you go over to 100%, it's going to rapidly increase the exposure. So I tend to avoid things that are going to brighten an image unless it's just a little bit, because it can make things go well over what you're looking for, and it makes it kind of unusable. So here if I maybe wanted to add a little bit of matte to it, I could do that. Maybe bring the contrast down like that. If I want to bring the exposure up here a little bit in the highlight area, I can. Maybe bring this down up here in the upper corner. You have a little bit of leeway. I've just found that when I do my traditional mid-tone bump that I like so much, it doesn't work very well as a profile. It tends to get things too bright too quickly. So I can go back here. Maybe I'll lower the highlight. Oops. Open the shadows a little bit, lower the highlights a little bit, maybe increase the contrast more. When I lower the highlights and open the shadows, I can increase the contrast more. It just depends on what you're looking for. Go into HSL here, and this is where the fun begins. I'm going to increase the saturation of the reds, the oranges maybe a little bit. I'm going to increase the luminance of the orange. I'm doing this mostly because I do this all the time for skin, so if there happens to be a person, I like to increase the luminance of the orange. So I just do that as a matter of course, not necessarily because it's for this image. For hue, let's increase the greens here. Maybe make the yellows a little bit more red. Increase the greens quite a bit. Maybe lower the saturation on the greens a little bit there. Let's see here what happens with the greens. I think I'm going to leave that one alone. Oranges I tend to leave alone. Reds I might go a little bit more to the orange side. For this particular image, I could definitely go to saturation and up the saturation of the magentas and the purples. I tend to not shoot with those colors, ironically. I'm editing one that's like that today, but I like this as it is. So you can continue to play. I really like to up the contrast and maybe even the vibrance even more. So this is a pretty punchy look we're creating here. Like that. Okay. Maybe even more contrast. We'll just really, really push it there. Okay, so let's leave this as it is, and we're going to go over to the presets section. Go all the way down to the bottom to this little button here. I don't know if you can see it. Let me move this around. Let's get into the window here. There's this little button right here. You want to alter option, click that, and it's going to open up a window. So you want to make sure that you hit the alter option key, otherwise this window will not open up. And so I'm going to do CJ Punchy Purple, I don't know, we'll call it that. And it already pre-selects everything that has to do with this profile. I use the basic panel, the point curve, and HSL adjustments. It already chooses all of that for me. I don't have to go in and manually pick it. It's going to go into user profiles. I hit OK. It does its thing. It's processing, and then you just hit OK. Now it's going to bring the image into Photoshop, but that's not where I want to stay. I want to go back to Lightroom. So what I'm going to do is pause this and open up Lightroom again. You want to close Lightroom and then open it again. If I go right back to Lightroom, this will not show up, but I need to close Lightroom and reopen it. So I'm going to do that right now. All right, so this is the image after I closed Lightroom and reopened it. I haven't edited it. This is what it looks like right now. It's currently on Adobe Color. When I open up the profile and go down to Browse, and go down to user profiles, my new profile, Punchy Purple, is there. All right, so this is the before and the after, before and after. So the fun thing about this is it's completely alone without any of the other adjustments available to me in Lightroom. And I can lower this if it's too much, and I can increase it if I want to intensify it. This is at 100, super crazy color, but I actually kind of like it pretty punchy. Depending on how it would print, I'd have to go in here and zoom in to see how we're doing with our gamut warning. But you can really, punch this up. So again, before and after. And this is all without any other adjustments that I've done here. So I can tweak things, fix things. If the highlights got too bright, I can go in here and adjust it. But making your own personal profiles, it's an amazing thing. It's something that should be used by everybody. And a lot of people are selling these kinds of things. You can make them yourself if you understand Lightroom and you understand the sliders and you understand how to manipulate HSL and all of that. You can definitely go in, make your own little profile like this, and have your own starting point that frees up all the other sliders. It is really, really cool. And the better you know Lightroom, the easier it is. And I do run a course called Communicating with Color and Light, where I teach you how to use all of these sliders and all of these panels effectively to be creative with them. So that may be something you're interested in if you want to learn to create things from scratch as opposed to purchasing presets. All right, thank you very much. Bye-bye.